Chapter 1: The Hotel. I worked the overnight desk at a business hotel for 2 years. Not a large hotel, 42 rooms, a small lobby, a breakfast area that doubled as a bar until 10 p.m. The kind of hotel that business travelers use because it's close to the highway and cheap, and they don't plan to spend any time in the room except sleeping. Most nights were quiet, check-ins slowed to nothing by midnight, and between 1 and 6 a.m., I was almost always alone in the lobby with the hum of the ice machine down the hall and whatever was on the television I kept on low behind the desk. The elevator was directly across from the front desk. I could see it from my chair without looking up. In 2 years of overnight shifts, I developed the particular relationship with that elevator that you develop with any machine you spend thousands of hours near. I knew its sounds and its rhythms. The specific delay between when someone pressed the button and when the doors opened, the way it settled slightly differently when it was carrying weight versus when it was empty. I noticed in my 4th month that the elevator was moving at night without being called, not frequently, maybe 3 or 4 times a week. Between 2 and 4 a.m., the elevator would activate. I could hear the mechanism, see the floor indicator light above the doors, and travel to a floor. It would sit there for a moment, then it would come back to the lobby, empty. Doors would open, I could see inside from my desk, nobody there, doors would close. I mentioned it to the day manager. She said elevators do that sometimes, recalled automatically to the lobby, a safety feature, something in the programming. I accepted this. It was a reasonable explanation. I stopped thinking about it. Then in my 7th month, I started noticing which floor it went to. It was always the 4th floor, without exception. Every time the elevator moved on its own between 2 and 4 a.m., it went to 4, sat for approximately 90 seconds, and came back. I started logging it in my personal notebook rather than the official log because I didn't know how to describe it in official terms. Over the following 6 weeks, I logged 23 spontaneous elevator trips. All to 4, all between 2 and 4 a.m., all lasting approximately 90 seconds. I pulled the room records for the 4th floor. In my 7 months at the hotel, room 412 had never once been occupied. Every other room on 4 had been booked at various points. Room 412 had 0 occupancies, 0 bookings, 0 records of anyone ever staying there. I asked the day manager about it. She looked at the record and said that was strange. She'd look into it. She never followed up. On a Tuesday night in my 8th month, at 3:07 a.m., I watched the elevator go to 4 and come back as usual. But this time when the doors opened in the lobby, there was a room key card on the floor of the elevator, just lying there on the carpet. I picked it up. It was a key card for room 412. I did not go up to room 412. I put the key card in the lost and found box behind the desk. When I came back the next evening for my shift, the key card was gone from the box and nobody on the day shift knew anything about it. The elevator continued its nightly trips to the 4th floor for the remaining 16 months I worked there. I never went up to investigate, and I never logged it officially. When I gave my notice, I left a note for whoever came after me in the shift handover book. I wrote, "The elevator goes to 4 by itself between 2 to 4 a.m. It has done this every night for over a year. Don't go up to check." I don't know if whoever came next read the note. I don't know if they went up. I don't know what's in room 412. I know that in 2 years of overnight shifts, I never once saw anyone go in or out of that room. And I know that something up there on the 4th floor wanted that elevator every night at the same time, for exactly 90 seconds for over a year. Chapter 2: The Data Center. My brother-in-law has worked in IT infrastructure for 15 years. He has spent a significant portion of his career in data centers, the large climate-controlled rooms full of server racks that most people never see. He is one of the most technically minded people I know, which is why I paid attention when he told me this story. He is not someone who reaches for supernatural explanations. He was doing overnight maintenance at a large data center outside of Seattle. Standard procedure for major updates: bring the facility to minimal operations after hours, run the maintenance, restore full function before business hours. He had done this dozens of times. He was working with a colleague named Priya, and they were the only two people in the building. The data center was loud: server fans, cooling systems, a constant industrial hum that you stopped hearing after a few minutes, the way you stop hearing traffic in a city. They worked in different sections of the floor to cover more ground, staying in radio contact. At 2:30 a.m., Priya radioed him. She asked if he had moved to the eastern section. He said no, he was still in the western section where he had been for the last hour. She said she could hear someone walking in the eastern section, footsteps clearly audible over the fan noise, which he told me meant they were loud because the fan noise was significant. He said he would come to her. When he got to the eastern section, they stood together and listened. The footsteps were there, slow, deliberate, moving between the server racks in the far end of the room. They followed the sound. Every time they got close to where it seemed to be coming from, it was somewhere else. Not running, not fast, just always one row over, one section ahead, as if whatever was making the sound was aware of them and keeping distance. They checked the entire floor. Every entrance was logged electronically, and the log showed only their 2 entries that evening. Every exit was also logged. Nothing had left. The security system showed no motion alerts because the data center's motion system was disabled during maintenance to avoid false alarms from the equipment. After 40 minutes, the footsteps stopped. They finished the maintenance in the same section, back to back, without discussing what they had heard. When they left at 5 a.m., the entry and exit logs still showed only their 2 entries for the entire night. My brother-in-law told me there are 3 explanations he has considered. Acoustic anomaly, the server room's particular arrangement of metal and hard surfaces could create strange reflections, an animal that somehow got in without triggering entry logs, or something else that he doesn't have a category for. He told me he leans toward acoustic anomaly. He told me he and Priya have never discussed it since that night. He told me he has done several overnight maintenance shifts at that facility since then, and has specifically requested not to be assigned to the eastern section. Rydstrom Chapter 3, The Cleaning Crew. My cousin worked for a commercial cleaning company for 3 years. Overnight shifts in office buildings, hospitals, shopping centers. The kind of work that happens when buildings are empty, and the people who use them during the day have no idea what goes on in the hours before they arrive. She is practical, unsentimental, and has seen enough strange things in the course of her work that most of them don't affect her. This one did. The building was a 12-story office complex in downtown Minneapolis. Her crew of 3 worked from midnight to 5 a.m., starting at the top floor and working down. Standard rotation. They had been doing this building for 8 months without incident. In the 9th month, they started finding the chairs. Every morning when they arrived on the 7th floor, always the 7th floor specifically, the office chairs had been moved. Not dramatically, not overturned or scattered, just subtly repositioned, turned to face different directions, pulled slightly away from desks, arranged in ways that were different from how they had been left the previous morning. The kind of movement that you would only notice if you were in the space every night and knew exactly what it looked like when it was undisturbed. Her crew assumed it was cleaning staff from another shift, or security doing rounds, or simply their own memory playing tricks. They noted it and moved on. Then in the 11th month, on a Wednesday night, my cousin was alone on the 7th floor. Her colleagues were on 6 and 8, and she heard something. Movement. From the far end of the floor, in the section of open-plan desks, near the windows overlooking the street. Not a sound she could identify specifically. Not footsteps. Not a voice. Not anything she could name. Just movement. the particular sound of something in a space that should be empty. She called out, announced herself the way she'd been trained to do. No response. She walked toward the sound. The far end of the floor was empty, but every chair in the open plan section, 12 chairs around a large central table, had been turned to face the elevator bank, all 12 precisely aligned, all facing the same direction. She had been in that section 15 minutes earlier. The chairs had been in their standard positions. She finished the floor and didn't go back to that section alone after that. She completed her contract and didn't renew. She told me the chair thing wasn't what bothered her most. What bothered her was the timing. 15 minutes. Whatever had moved 12 chairs into precise alignment had done it in the 15 minutes she was at the other end of the floor, in complete silence, in an office building at 3 a.m. She told me she still thinks about what she would have found if she had turned around a few minutes earlier. She told me she's glad she didn't.